Mike, welcome back to the BFC. How you doing?
Iraq. I love the garb.
Well, I gotta be in spirit here, and you know what? When I had Adam Thomas, the CEO of Transamerican Aquaculture, when he actually had the Bill's head on, I'm like, what am I doing? I had to put my head on. I'm like, I got to get with the program here. So yes, Bill Swag it is. How have you been?
Oh, great. Glad to be here.
So I know this is just a brief update to kick off the year, but I want to talk a little bit about 2023 and what successes you had and what we have to look forward to this year. What were some of your accomplishments at Bioxytran?
Well, the number one accomplishment here we had a peer-reviewed clinical trial. We had 88% of people testing PCR negative in 3 days. So basically, they're over the virus, for all intents and purposes at day 3. And when you compare that to, the standard, which is, 50% of the people get better in around 8.5 days, that's big. Okay, it was statistically significant, it was with a p-value of 0.001. I mean, this was big news. I'd say that's probably our largest accomplishment. So here we are. We're have a phase 3 ready IND in India. We've initiated a dose optimization study. We can get into,
So the dose part has started. The dose part has started for the phase 3.
It's initiated. Starting means dosing. Okay, how we dose the patient yet? We'll put out a press release when we do, and we can talk about the challenges. But we'll stay focused on what our milestones are. So the other thing that we had was U.S. IND. We got the approval to proceed there. That's also big. And then we also had some in vitro testing done. And our in vitro test showed that it worked in influenza, RSV, and COVID. This thing they call the triple demic. So the idea is, you take this would be the standard of care in the future. This is a hypothetical situation. And you take this, you're like, oh, you have an upper respiratory tract infection. Here, take this. And it'll cover, it's like it has broad spectrum antiviral activity. And I could really say, after doing enough research, there aren't any broad spectrum antivirals. This is truly the first of its time. And we think it could work on a whole bunch of other viruses. So that's what we've done. Now, what are we looking forward to in the future? Well, obviously, our first milestone here is dosing the patients and completing our, the dose optimization study, which is required to start a phase 3. The other thing that we need is we need funding. We need funding to move the ball down the field into the end zone. That's the honor of the Bills, right? So we need that. So we'll need to find that right partner. Now, how are we going to do that? The ball's up in the air. Maybe we're going to discuss that a little bit later. But we also have some studies in the works. We're very, very close to a shingles study being released, albeit probably in preprint. I think and we can get into that. We tried via the normal routes, but they want more than one anecdotal study. That was using a galectin antagonist, topical galectin antagonist, but it applies to us. And that's so those are some of the things that we're looking forward to, is really moving forward with clinical trials. We can also do some more in vitro testing. So this is all part of our strategy, multi-pronged strategy to move the ball forward. And then, of course, we're still talking to small pharma, or trying to get a hold of small pharma and talk about our value proposition.
Right on. So I got to ask just a quick question. How big is the control for this phase 3, give or take?
The phase 3 is going to be 400 patients total, okay. roughly 400. I think it's 410. And then half of them. So around 200 would be control.
Okay. You did mention funding. And I know that seems to be an issue across the board, especially as of late.
How
Uh,
about that?
based on your experience, describe the funding climate for biotechs, for small cap and startup companies now. Is it favorable versus unfavorable? I think I sort of answered that in the question, but talk to us a little bit about that experience.
Well, it's hard. Like you should also talk to your next guest about that. What these guys are looking for is they're all about structure. They don't care. They care about the stock price. They care about the liquidity. They don't necessarily care how great the science is. It's irrelevant to them. So the first criteria is with your share structure. Now, the good news for us is our share structure is pretty tight, really tight. If you think about it, we got around 25, maybe it's 30 million in the OS in the float, and our volume is like 150,000 shares a day. I mean, no one's selling. That's the thing. So what happens if there's some sort of catalyst in biotech? What if OTC lights up? We're going. With that in the float, it's been consolidating forever. It'll go. And structurally, where our debt is at, our debt's priced, the debt that we do have is priced around 15 cents. We're trading below that. So the guy's losing money if he converts.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about the Form 4, the recent Form 4 by the CEO. It didn't say whose shares that he bought. They were not retail float, and the volume was huge, like about 500,000 worth. Can you fill in the blanks in regards to that transaction, that Form 4? And this is the one I'm referring to right here.
Well, thank you for showing it to me. I mean, I don't normally pay attention to these, so I'm gonna. Can I punt on that one?
Yeah, you can get back to me on. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna punt on that one. You just kind of threw that at me, but yeah,
absolutely. That's not.
But the one thing that I know is that we're not selling. Okay, so I already know that. So it's
clearly not, and not when you're purchasing $500,000 worth of stock.
Right.
So,
but I don't believe it was an open market purchase. But that's the only color that I'll get to you.
All right. Let me look at the chat here. By the way, guys, thanks for tuning in. And if you're a first-time watcher, well, welcome to the BFC and subscribe and join the family. Let's see who we got here. All right. I know I had a couple questions from Doc P. All right. Here's a couple good questions. How does one value and monetize a new biotech drug family and patent that can stop up to 60 plus viral infections?
I love this question, right? Right now, it's not fairly valued at all. What you can do is you look to other valuations that are out there in the marketplace, and you look at the viral indications, and you look at how far advanced we are in the clinical trial process. So again, I said that we're phase 3 ready. Some of these phase 3 ready antivirals, they're very specific antivirals, not like us. It's broad spectrum, means not just one indication, multiple indications. And the truth is, we don't know how many indications, right? So when COVID came around, which is arguably the largest market out there, which we address, and we address larger than what these other companies value them at, the valuations are going $500 million for a phase 2 asset. Well, we're more advanced in a phase 2 asset. What's a market cap? 20 million. So, if you look at 20 million, you look at $500 million, and you say, so if this gets any exposure whatsoever, that's the market forces. It would not surprise me to take it to that $500 million valuation, right? Does that make sense? So what you do is you look at what other big pharma deals have done and buying out companies. And then the other thing that you do is you look at the indication, and typically a phase 2 is going to go for around 200 million. I think a large indication, and a phase 3 ready asset is anywhere in the 750 million to $1 billion. I mean, it costs $1 billion to develop a new drug. You don't want to know what we put into it, which is a whole lot less because we're so cost efficient. But I mean, that's why phase 3 is valued at those high levels.
Right on.
Hopefully
All right.
that answers your question on
Yeah,
value.
yeah, yeah.
What
Doc,
value?
Doc is blowing it up here, of course. So let's say he has a couple more questions. Actually, one of them was practically stolen from me, Doc. You're stealing my thunder here. Hey, which is great. That's what this is all about. First-hand due diligence. Why is this BIXT galactide antagonist antiviral technology so important for battling future viruses? Since real vaccines for viruses take a decade or more to create and test.
Have you heard of disease X? Have you heard
Yeah,
about that?
yeah. I've read a little bit about that.
Okay, so let's talk about disease X. Is this because we're talking about the future? So the WHO says disease X is going to be 20 times more deadly than COVID-19. This is the WHO. Okay, so there's some people that don't like them. There's some people that watch every word. Whatever your thing is, let's just say it's 2 or 3 times more than that. One, okay. What are they going to do? How fast are they going to be able to develop the vaccine? Okay. What we have is something that binds the conserved site of a spike protein. And we believe that it works on all different types of variants. We believe it works on, we've already shown in vitro that it works on different types of viruses, completely different families of viruses. So, the future of battling disease X, for example, is probably using a galactic antagonist.
Yeah.
That's the future.
Well, and I could see why that would be beneficial, and I don't want to use the word cure all.
Well, what does a vaccine do? It creates these things called antibodies that neutralize the virus. What is a galactic antagonist? It neutralizes the virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't.
And we covered that on the show, actually. If you guys have tuned in, he has covered this in depth, by the way. So
you have to create antibodies. It takes time. When you take our molecule, it creates a neutralization agent immediately as soon as it gets into the bloodstream. There's no colonal expansion of cells or any of that stuff. And it does, in theory, it does kind of the same thing.
All right.
Great question.
Good. I'm glad it was a good answer. I know we could have a whole episode on WHO, the WHO, and so I mean, I could just imagine what the chat would be like, pro, against it, and just like their people's takes on it in general. It's something that maybe we should sit down and have a forum on one of these days and get some opinions out there. And I am going to close with the Doc's question again. The doctor's in the house. And this is your final question. This was one thing I was going to ask you going forward. What are you hoping Bioxytran accomplishes in 2024? So like what is, if you could pick one thing that Bioxytran is going to capitalize on and be successful at, what are you hoping it is?
We need to hit our milestone of registrational approval in India. So that's the ultimate milestone, right? So we got our drug approved. This way, when we go to guys that say to you, like, hey, I've been involved in a lot of biotechs and they never pan out. We can say, well, you were wrong. This one panned out. Because how many biotechs have you interviewed or are going to interview that have something that is even close to an 88% response rate in 3 days, or you get 100% response rate for efficacy? You see, the science clearly shows that we're going to win here as long as we structure the right trial. We're not going to have an issue. So we're really excited about getting registration approval. Now, keep in mind, this will take money. There's no free lunch here. We're gonna need to raise money to get this done. We need to find the right investor that can understand the value of our technology and wants to strike it, strike it rich. We haven't found that guy that really, wants to make a lot of money. And that's unfortunate, but we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep looking at the partners. You know, the partnership is another thing that I think that could happen this year. You know, people aren't returning phone calls. They're going to start returning phone calls, you know, as the new year. So once they start returning phone calls and start looking at what we have, these biotech, see the value proposition, I think I can sign.
Right on. And as things do progress in the India trial, please keep us up to date.
Absolutely.
You know, I'd like to share these updates, even if you ever want to just hop on just for a quick update or send us a video. You know, I'll make sure that I get out this to the BFC fam. So, Mike, I really want to say thank you for taking the time to come on the show again.
No, my pleasure. Great to be here.